Hi everyone, my name is Ahmed Amran. I'm a strength coach, nutrition coach, and health and fitness professional. Today I wanted to talk about a very interesting topic, which is having an effective home strength workout for this month of Ramadan. Now, a lot of people think that the month of Ramadan is the perfect time to maybe lose weight, get healthy and fit, and kind of achieve your long-term fitness goals. However, I like to take a kind of different approach when it comes to this month. So the four main things I like to talk about during this month is you want to be able to minimize the amount of stress that you get into the body. The next thing is making sure that you're improving mobility and joint fluidity. The third thing is maintaining your strength, especially because you're not eating as much or not sleeping as well during this month. And then the fourth thing is minimize the amount of sweating that you do with each workout. So the reason why I like to focus on these four things is that during this month, it can be quite stressful to do a home strength workout that is super intense, high level, high energy. So instead, what I prefer doing is try to maintain where you're currently at when it comes to strength. Now, we never want to lose muscle mass because that will benefit you metabolically and in so many different ways in the long term. So what I tell people is that your main purpose here is to maintain strength, make sure that you have fluidity in the joints, make sure that you're not stressing yourself more than you need to. I always like to start with a routine called CARS, which stands for capsular articular rotations. You don't have to think too much about that, but it's more about creating fluidity in the joint, especially due to the lack of water in the body, right? It's very hard for us to recover the amount of water that we naturally drink throughout the day. So what we're doing here is we're trying to create fluidity into those joints. Now, I got this from one of my colleagues called Ammar Rajab, and he is like an expert in this, but I will be discussing a few of these now and going into a bit of detail on how to move and how to start your warm-up, at least to begin with. So this is now the CAR section. We're going to start off with the neck. So think about when you're talking about the neck, it's very often that we are looking down nowadays. So we want to try to avoid that as much as possible, and while creating as much range of motion from that neck and the cervical spine. So that is an important part. The next part would be the shoulders. So the shoulders are also an important part because we're constantly maybe shrugged forward, looking at our phones, looking down. So kind of creating that rotation and fluidity in the joint is super important. And it works the same way when it's with the next exercise, which is the scapula. So we want to be able to move up and down, move it all the way down, pull the shoulder blades back, pull the shoulder blades up, get used to understanding that feeling of shrugging. The next thing could be the wrists. Now, the wrist is an important one because that's one of the sections in the body that needs the most amount of water because there's so much bones and so much intricacy in there. So I like to always say work on the wrists, try to not put as much pressure on the wrist, especially when you're sitting down on a computer. The next one could be the spine. So the spine is an important one because, again, we're kind of slouched forward during the day when we're looking at our phones or on our computers. We forget to have that nice posture, and especially when we tend to get a little bit lazier during the month of Ramadan. Another one that is super important and becomes super stiff, not just in Ramadan, but in general because of our tendency to sit so often, is the hips. So creating fluidity there and opening up the hips is super important. And you would notice that it might feel more difficult for guys than it does for girls because naturally the hip width for guys is smaller than it is for girls, and it becomes more difficult to create rotation and movement there. The next one would be the knee, or creating rotation in the shins. So moving side to side with a nice rotational pattern. It looks like you're moving from the ankle, but in fact, you're actually moving the shin and the tibia left and right. And then finally, the last one would be the ankle. So again, another place where there's so many bones and so much going on there that it's so important to get that fluidity there. And you will hear probably a little bit more crackiness there and in the wrist, and that's totally normal. So now what we do here is we do a really quick warm-up just to kind of get the body moving and kind of get the blood flow up and the body temperature a little bit higher. So very easy ones you can do are things like jumping jacks, even high knees. But obviously we don't want to do too many of those because it can be very impactful on the body and on the joints. And then the last thing you can do is like some body weight squats or some deadlifts, just so that you kind of get into that pattern and get the heart rate up by using quite a lot of muscle, and then maybe a balancing to activate the glutes while standing. So starting with the workout itself. So I like to always tell people that we don't want to put too much stress and we don't want to sweat too much during this month. So the easiest way to develop or maintain strength is by doing a 1 set to failure exercise. And we break those exercises down into 5 different movements. So we're going to do 1 set, just get in, get out kind of mentality. So we start with a squatting pattern, then a pushing pattern like a push-up, a hinging pattern like a deadlift or a bridge, and then a pulling pattern like a row or a pull-up, which we can't do at home, so I will show you variations on how we can do that for home. And then finally a planking or a core exercise. So starting off with the squat. Now that is the easiest thing you can do. Just a body weight squat with your hands in front of you. You drop down as low as you can and hold there for as long as possible. Now, it's very common for you to start to feel shaky, your legs start to shiver, your body starts to ache, you start to feel a burn in the legs. Now, it's very easy to also kind of stop before you actually fail. Now, we don't want that, so one of the nice rules I like to use is give yourself the 10-second rule, where you feel like you're going to fail, which is a lot to do with the mind. Just say, okay, I'm going to count another 10 seconds and then I will fail. The next exercise can be a push-up. So a push-up is very basic. You can do it either on the floor, and if it's not on the floor because it's a bit too difficult, you can elevate your body upwards so that you can do it higher up where there's a little bit more distribution towards your legs instead of the hands. The next exercise would be a deadlift or a hinge. So today what we'll do is a bridge. And a bridge is a very simple exercise you can do on the floor. You can see it in the video. It's drive your hips up and back down until you feel that burning sensation in the glutes, which is a very important muscle that we want to kind of utilize. The next workout or exercise is a pulling pattern, which is a row. So there are several options when it comes to this. So you can either do a row hold with a towel, or it can be a rep-based one like a backpack row where you put heavy weights inside the backpack and continuously do those exercises. Or if you want to be creative, you can even use like a water tank that you use in a water cooler, and you can do those for reps, or you can also do that for a hold. And then finally, the last exercise is a planking exercise or a core exercise. So I like to hold this for as long as possible. And one of the nice tricks that most people don't realize is planking is not supposed to be a passive exercise. So you're not supposed to just hold it for the sake of holding it, but really be active, really tense up your abs. So imagine someone bracing and punching you in the stomach, and that kind of tension is what you want to feel when you do that exercise. So those have been the exercises for a home strength workout. Obviously, you can ask me any more questions. Thank you, and Ramadan Kareem.